Dr. Nathan Brooks, a black man in a tailored suit, drove through Detroit's twilight, unaware his life was about to implode. A flickering taillight drew Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's patrol car. Smirking, Caldwell planted drugs in Nathan's vehicle, cuffing him with brutal force as smartphones recorded. Nathan's calm pleas were drowned by sirens, his dignity shredded. Jailed as a dealer, he hid his FBI director title to test the system. Caldwell gloated, oblivious to Nathan's power. Viral footage ignited outrage, threatening Nathan's career. What would this injustice unleash? Before diving in, let us know where you're watching from. If you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe, because tomorrow's episode is unmissable. Dr. Nathan Brooks stepped out of the Detroit jail into a humid 90-degree dawn, his suit wrinkled, but his resolve ironclad, determined to reclaim his life after Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's racist frame-up. His lawyer, Sarah Klein, a sharp-witted advocate with a knack for navigating corrupt systems, secured his release on bail within hours, a small triumph that made Nathan's chest swell with hope as he envisioned clearing his name. Sarah warned him to keep his FBI director title under wraps, arguing it would expose systemic bias more effectively if revealed strategically, and Nathan agreed, trusting her plan to leverage the viral video of his brutal arrest to sway public opinion. He felt the weight of 1,000 eyes as he walked free, the footage still circulating online, sparking heated debates across social media, with hashtags demanding justice trending nationwide. Nathan believed he could turn the tide by speaking out, so he arranged a press conference outside the courthouse, a towering stone structure that loomed over the city's heart, its steps crowded with reporters and curious onlookers. Standing before a forest of microphones, Nathan spoke with measured calm, his voice steady as he recounted the injustice, denying the drug charges and calling for accountability, his words resonating with the crowd, who clapped and cheered, their supporter lifeline he clung to, convinced he was on the path to vindication. But as he finished, a grainy video hit the airwaves, broadcast by a local news station with ties to Caldwell's precinct, showing Nathan allegedly assaulting an officer. During his arrest, the footage doctored to paint him as a violent thug, his face twisted in a snarl that never existed. The crowd's cheers turned to murmurs, then boos, as phones lit up with the clip, shared thousands of times within minutes, and Nathan's heart sank, his moment of triumph shredded by Caldwell's cunning. Reporters swarmed, shouting accusations, their questions like knives, and Sarah pulled him away, her face pale, whispering that Caldwell had allies in high places, pulling strings to bury Nathan's truth. The media firestorm erupted, national outlets picking up the story, branding Nathan a criminal mastermind, a black man whose polished exterior hid a dangerous core, the racist stereotype fueling public outrage. Nathan's FBI colleagues, bound by protocol, issued a statement distancing themselves, citing an ongoing investigation, their silence a betrayal that stung deeper than the media's lies, leaving him isolated, his career teetering on collapse. Back at his modest apartment, Nathan pored over case files, his mind racing to find a way out, and discovered a pattern in Caldwell's record, a trail of wrongful arrests targeting black men, each case marked by planted evidence and coerced confessions, a systemic rot that fueled Nathan's anger, his fists clenching as he vowed to expose the corruption. He compiled a dossier, names and dates meticulously documented, and sent it to a trusted contact at a civil rights organization, believing this evidence would shift the narrative, his pulse quickening with the hope of justice. But Caldwell was one step ahead, his influence snaking through the city's underbelly, and he bribed a former informant, a desperate man named Tyrone Wells, to testify that Nathan had orchestrated a drug ring, the lie backed by forged financial records that surfaced overnight, linking Nathan's bank account to illicit transactions. The new charges hit like a sledgehammer, escalating the case to drug trafficking, a felony that could lock Nathan away for decades, his dreams of clearing his name crumbling as prosecutors gloated, their smirks mirroring Caldwell's. Nathan thought he could weather the storm, but that night as he sat alone, the sound of shattering glass jolted him upright, his apartment door splintered open by unseen vandals who spray-painted racial slurs across his walls, the words jagged and hateful slicing into his soul. Furniture was overturned, photos of his daughter, Maya, torn to pieces, and a note pinned to the fridge read, "Back off or you're next." The threat chilling Nathan's blood, its anonymity a reminder of Caldwell's reach. He called the police, but the responding officers, Caldwell's cronies, dismissed the vandalism as a random act, their sneers mocking Nathan's pleas, leaving him to clean the wreckage alone, his hands trembling as he scrubbed the slurs, each stroke fueling his rage. Sarah arrived, her eyes wide with horror, and urged Nathan to relocate, but he refused, his stubborn pride anchoring him to the fight, though doubt gnawed at him, the isolation suffocating. The dossier he'd sent was ignored. The civil rights. Contact suddenly unresponsive, lightly pressured by Caldwell's allies, and Nathan realized the system was a labyrinth, each turn leading to a new trap. His bail conditions tightened, a GPS ankle monitor now tracking his every move. A constant reminder of his precarious freedom, and the trafficking charges loomed, the trial date set just weeks away, a ticking clock that echoed in Nathan's sleepless nights. He stood at his window, the city's skyline a jagged silhouette, and swore to fight on. But Caldwell's shadow loomed larger, his retaliation a storm gathering strength, ready to crush Nathan's resolve. The media's lies, the informants, betrayal and the vandalism were just the beginning, each blow a calculated strike to break him, and Nathan knew the worst was yet to come, his fight for justice now a battle for survival in a city rigged against him. Dr. Nathan Brooks paced his cramped Detroit apartment, the stench of paint thinner lingering from scrubbing racial slurs off his walls, his heart a furnace of rage and resolve after Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's relentless assaults, the media's lies, and the vandalism that scarred his home. The GPS ankle monitor chafed his skin, a constant reminder of the drug trafficking charges rigged against him. But Nathan refused to break, his mind fixed on exposing Caldwell's corruption, the pattern of framed black men burning in his memory, like a brand. He reached out to a local community group, Unity Rising, a tight-knit collective of activists led by Marcus Tate, a fiery orator who'd long battled Detroit's injustices, and Nathan believed their support could shift the tide. Their shared outrage a beacon in the storm. Marcus agreed to organize a protest outside the city's police headquarters, a squat brick building 5 miles from Nathan's apartment, its flag snapping in the 92-degree heat. And Nathan felt a surge of hope, convinced the public's anger over his viral arrest video would amplify their cause. The day of the protest, Nathan stood shoulder to shoulder with hundreds, their signs demanding justice, their chants echoing through the streets, and he spoke to the crowd, his voice raw with conviction, denying the charges and exposing Caldwell's history. The applause washing over him like a lifeline, making him believe he'd regained the community's trust. But Caldwell's shadow loomed, his operatives embedded in the crowd disguised as activists, and as Nathan's speech peaked, they hurled bottles and bricks, igniting chaos, the protest spiraling into a riot as police in riot gear descended, their batons swinging. Tear gas stung Nathan's eyes, his monitor beeping frantically, and before he could flee, officers tackled him, their knees grinding into his back, arresting him for inciting violence, the crowd's cheers turning to screams. His moment of triumph shattered. Cuffed and dragged to a precinct, Nathan faced a new charge, his bail revoked by a judge with ties to Caldwell's allies, the courtroom a sterile cage where justice felt like a myth, and he was remanded to jail, the clang of the cell door a death knell to his freedom. In his cell, Nathan's mind raced, replaying the protest's collapse, and he realized Caldwell's reach was deeper than he'd feared, but a glimmer of hope emerged when he overheard a guard, a nervous rookie named Jamal Pierce, whispering about Caldwell's corruption, hinting at a ledger of bribes hidden in the precinct. Nathan befriended Jamal, earning his trust over late-night talks, and Jamal agreed to smuggle a note to Nathan's lawyer, Sarah, detailing the ledger's location. Making Nathan believe he was close to exposing Caldwell, his pulse hammering with anticipation. But Caldwell's paranoia was a living thing, and he'd been watching Jamal, his spies catching wind of the rookie's doubts. Caldwell framed Jamal for stealing evidence, planting a stolen badge in his locker, and the rookie was fired, his credibility ruined. his whispers dismissed as lies, leaving Nathan's note undelivered, his plan in ashes. Caldwell's allies in the district attorney's office moved swiftly, pushing for an accelerated trial, and Nathan learned the jury had been rigged, handpicked by a prosecutor who golfed with Caldwell, their biases clear in their cold stares. During pre-trial hearings, each glance a reminder of the system's weight against him. The trial was set for 3 weeks away, a guillotine looming, and Nathan's isolation deepened. Unity Rising's members turning away, Marcus claiming the protest's fallout had endangered their cause, his betrayal a knife in Nathan's gut. The media doubled down, painting Nathan as a riot instigator, a black man whose eloquence masked a violent core, the racist narrative fueling public scorn, and Nathan's FBI colleagues remained silent, their absence a wound that festered. His apartment, now a distant memory, was seized by the city under a civil forfeiture claim tied to the trafficking charges, leaving him homeless if he ever walked free, and the ankle monitor's data was leaked, his every move before the arrest splashed across tabloids, mocking his dignity. Nathan sat in his cell, the concrete walls closing in, his daughter Maya's face haunting his dreams, her safety a flickering hope as Caldwell's threats echoed in his mind. The protest's collapse, Jamal's ruin, and the rigged jury were blows that tested Nathan's spirit, but he clung to a stubborn fire, vowing to fight, though Caldwell's next move was already in motion, a trap tightening around Nathan's future. Could one man's truth topple a system built to crush him? Before we continue, ask yourself, would you stand with Nathan against this injustice, or would fear silence you? Drop a comment with number 1 if you believe in fighting for truth. Hit like and subscribe to join us as we unravel this battle. What desperate move will Nathan make to escape Caldwell's tightening noose? Dr. Nathan Brooks sat in a Detroit jail cell, the damp concrete walls amplifying the echo of his racing thoughts, his spirit battered but unyielding after the rigged protest, Jamal's betrayal, and the looming trial stacked against him. Each injustice, a searing reminder of Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's racist vendetta. The media's venomous portrayal of him as a riot instigator gnawed at his pride, but a flicker of hope emerged when Sarah Klein, his lawyer, secured a new bail hearing, her tenacity cutting through the system's fog, convincing a sympathetic Judge Elena Harper to reconsider Nathan's detention, a woman whose reputation for fairness made Nathan believe he might breathe free air again. Eleanor, a black judge who'd faced her own battles with bias, listened intently as Sarah argued Nathan's innocence, citing the viral arrest video and Caldwell's history of framing black men, her words a lifeline that made Nathan's chest lighten. The courtroom's oak benches creaking under the weight of onlookers, their murmurs a mix of skepticism and curiosity. The judge granted bail, setting it at a steep $100,000, and Nathan's allies in the community scraped together the funds, their sacrifice humbling him as he stepped out of the jail into a muggy 95-degree afternoon, the city's skyline a jagged promise of redemption, believing he could now dismantle Caldwell's lies. Sarah introduced him to a tech expert, Malik Evans, a wiry genius with a knack for digital forensics, who agreed to analyze the doctored footage that had derailed Nathan's press conference, his algorithms uncovering inconsistencies in the videos. Metadata, proof that Caldwell's allies had tampered with it, and Nathan's pulse raced, convinced this evidence would clear his name. Malik worked from a cluttered basement office 3 miles from the courthouse, his monitors glowing with code, and within days he produced a report that exposed the footage as a fake, a triumph that made Nathan feel the tide turning, his resolve hardening as he planned to share it publicly. He coordinated with a local news outlet, WDT, scheduling a broadcast to reveal the analysis, standing before their studio's green screen, his voice steady as he presented Malik's findings, the anchor nodding gravely, the report airing to thousands, sparking renewed protests outside the precinct, and Nathan believed he'd finally broken through the public's outrage, a shield against Caldwell's corruption. But Caldwell's malice was a coiled snake, striking with precision, and he targeted Nathan's daughter, Maya, a bright 20-year-old college student, orchestrating a setup where campus police arrested her for shoplifting, planting a stolen necklace in her backpack, the charge a cruel echo of Nathan's own framing. her tearful call from a holding cell shattering his heart, a calculated blow to force his surrender. Nathan rushed to the university 7 miles across town, his hands trembling as he met Maya, her eyes red but defiant, and he vowed to protect her, though guilt gnawed at him, knowing Caldwell's attack was retaliation for his broadcast. Returned to Malik, urging him to upload the analysis to a secure server, believing it would safeguard their proof. But Caldwell's operatives, tech-savvy mercenaries with ties to the precinct, hacked the server overnight, corrupting the files, replacing them with gibberish, the report now useless, Malik's face ashen as he admitted defeat, Nathan's hope crumbling like dry earth. Caldwell wasn't done, his influence snaking through the city's power structures, and he leaked a fabricated story to a tabloid, claiming Nathan had bribed Judge Elena with illicit funds, the lie backed by forged bank transfers that surfaced. Online, painting Nathan as a corrupt manipulator, the accusation tainting the bail hearing's legitimacy. The media pounced, headlines screaming of judicial scandal, and Elena, under pressure, recused herself, replaced by a hardline judge, Ronald Vance, known for siding with prosecutors, who swiftly denied Nathan's bail, citing the bribery allegations. The courtroom's air thick with betrayal as Nathan was cuffed again, his freedom snatched away. Vance ordered Nathan transferred to a notorious detention center, Ironwood, a sprawling facility 10 miles outside Detroit, its reputation for brutality chilling Nathan's blood. The guard's sneers as he arrived echoing Caldwell's gloating smirk. Maya's arrest, the hacked evidence, and the bribery lie were a triple blow, each laced with racial venom. Caldwell exploiting stereotypes to paint Nathan and his family as criminals, the system bending to his will. Nathan's cell at Ironwood was a 6-by-8-foot tomb, the flickering fluorescent light mocking his despair. But he clung to a stubborn spark, picturing Maya's face, her strength fueling his vow to fight on. Sarah, shaken but determined, promised to appeal. But Nathan knew Caldwell's next trap was already set, the detention center a new battlefield where survival demanded cunning, his identity as FBI director still hidden, a secret he guarded as his last weapon. The trial loomed, now weeks away, and Caldwell's shadow grew darker, his retaliation a relentless storm, each move more vicious, Nathan's fight for justice a tightrope over an abyss, his every step haunted by the question of what Caldwell would destroy next. Dr. Nathan Brooks shuffled into Ironwood Detention Center, 10 miles outside Detroit, the clang of steel gates sealing him into a 6-by-8-foot cell, the air thick with mildew and menace, his heart pounding from the fresh wounds of Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's latest blows, Maya's framing, the hacked evidence and the rigged bail denial, each a racist dagger driven deeper by a system designed to crush him. The prison's fluorescent lights buzzed like vipers, casting shadows over guards who sneered at Nathan, their eyes glinting with Caldwell's influence, whispering slurs as they passed, a constant reminder of the racial hatred fueling his ordeal. Nathan's trial loomed 3 weeks away, a guillotine sharpened by Caldwell's lies, but he clung to a flicker of defiance, his FBI director identity still hidden, a secret he guarded like a loaded gun, knowing its revelation could shift the battle. In the mess hall, amid the clatter of trays and the stench of overcooked gruel, Nathan met Terrell Hayes, a wiry inmate with a scar across his cheek, serving time for a theft he swore he didn't commit, his story echoing Nathan's own framing, a bond that sparked hope. Terrell claimed to have overheard guards discussing Caldwell's corruption, a stash of bribe receipts hidden in the precinct's basement, and Nathan's pulse quickened, believing this intel could topple Caldwell, his mind racing with plans to smuggle it to Sarah, his lawyer, still fighting despite the system's chokehold. Over late-night whispers in the cell block, Nathan and Terrell devised a scheme, Terrell slipping a coded note into a laundry cart bound for the outside, addressed to Sarah, detailing the receipt's location, and Nathan felt a surge of triumph. Convinced their plan would break Caldwell's grip, the first real victory since his arrest 5 weeks ago, he waited, each day a slog through Ironwood's brutal routine, dodging leering guards and inmates who sized him up, his hope pinned on. Sarah receiving the note, but Caldwell's paranoia was a living beast, his spies infiltrating every corner of the prison. Terrell, under pressure from a guard loyal to Caldwell, was coerced into betraying Nathan, planting a sharpened shank beneath Nathan's mattress during a cell inspection, the discovery triggering a swift punishment. Nathan dragged to solitary confinement, a pitch-black 4x4-foot box where time dissolved into despair, his body aching from the guards' rough handling, their laughter laced with racial venom. In solitary, Nathan's thoughts spiraled, Maya's tearful voice haunting him, the betrayal a fresh wound, but he believed he'd salvaged a chance when he managed to scratch a message onto a food tray, begging a sympathetic janitor to contact Sarah, a desperate act that made him think he'd outmaneuvered Caldwell's trap. But Caldwell's reach was a noose, tightening with every move, and his operatives ambushed Sarah outside her office, two masked men beating her into a coma, her briefcase torched, the note's intel lost, the hospital's sterile halls a grim testament to Caldwell's ruthlessness. News of the attack reaching Nathan through a smuggled radio, his chest collapsing with guilt, his ally silenced. Caldwell wasn't done, his cruelty a tidal wave, and he spread rumors through Ironwood that Nathan was a snitch, a lie that turned the inmate population against him, their glares sharpening into threats, the mess hall now a minefield where every glance promised violence. On a humid 90-degree evening, as Nathan crossed the yard, 3 inmates cornered him, their fists and shivs flashing, their slurs echoing the guards' hatred, and Nathan fought back, his training as FBI director surfacing in precise strikes. But a glancing blow split his brow, blood stinging his eyes. His survival a miracle owed to a guard's reluctant intervention, the attack leaving him bruised and shaken, his body a map of pain. The solitary stint, Sarah's assault and the inmate attack were a trifecta of betrayal, each steeped in racial malice, Caldwell exploiting the prison's systemic bias to isolate Nathan, his every step a dance with death. In his cell, the flickering light mocked his resolve, but Nathan pictured Maya, her courage a beacon, and Terrell's guilt-ridden glance in the yard, a silent apology, hinted at a spark of redemption, though trust was now a luxury Nathan couldn't afford. The trial's shadow grew, Caldwell's rigged jury waiting, and Nathan knew Ironwood was a crucible, testing his will to survive, his identity a secret he held tighter, its power his last hope against a system that saw his blackness as a crime. Caldwell's next move lurked, a predator in the dark, and Nathan's fight for justice became a battle for his life, each moment a question of endurance. Have you ever felt the sting of betrayal when you trusted someone to stand by you? Or wondered how far you'd go to protect your family against a corrupt system? Comment number 1. If you believe Nathan's fight exposes the truth about injustice, hit like and subscribe to follow this saga of courage and betrayal. Can Nathan escape the prison's deadly grip to strike back at Caldwell's empire? Dr. Nathan Brooks crouched in the shadows of Ironwood Detention Center's loading dock, his breath shallow, the bruises from the inmate attack throbbing under his torn jumpsuit, the weight of Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's racist crusade heavier than the chains he'd just slipped, Maya's safety and Sarah's coma fueling his desperate bid for freedom. The trial was 2 weeks away, a rigged noose tightening, but Nathan's FBI director training kicked in, his mind sharp, despite the prison's toll, the racial slurs and systemic bias etching fury into his soul. A maintenance truck idled nearby, its driver distracted, and Nathan seized the moment, prying open a crate and hiding inside, the wood splintering his palms as the truck rumbled 8 miles toward Detroit, his heart pounding with the hope of exposing Caldwell's corruption, his escape a defiant act against a system that branded him a criminal for his blackness. Emerging in a grimy alley under a 93-degree night sky, Nathan slipped into the city, his face obscured by a stolen cap, believing he could go public to clear his name, his FBI identity still a hidden ace, its power a spark in the dark. He tracked down Lena Ortiz, a fearless journalist who'd once exposed police misconduct, finding her in a dimly lit diner 4 miles from the precinct, her skeptical eyes softening as Nathan shared his story, the viral arrest, Maya's framing, and Caldwell's trail of framed black men, his voice low but fierce, convincing her to publish his account. Lena agreed, her laptop glowing as she drafted a scathing exposé, linking Caldwell's doctored footage to precinct corruption, and the story hit online, spreading like wildfire, igniting protests outside City Hall, their chants echoing Nathan's truth, making him believe he'd turned the tide, the public's rage a shield against Caldwell's lies. But Caldwell's malice was a hydra, each blow spawning worse. And he branded Nathan a fugitive terrorist, plastering his face across every news channel, the label a racist dog whistle that painted Nathan as a threat to order, his blackness weaponized to stoke fear. The protests meant to champion Nathan drew riot police, their batons cracking skulls, the chaos spun by Caldwell's media allies as Nathan's doing, his triumph souring into a public relations nightmare, the city's streets, a war zone under a haze of tear gas. Lena, shaken but determined, vowed to dig deeper, but Caldwell's operatives moved faster, bribing her editor with $50,000 to retract the exposé, replacing it with a statement disavowing Nathan, claiming he'd fabricated evidence. The betrayal a gut punch that left Nathan reeling, his story erased. The protests fizzling as public trust wavered. Worse, the FBI, pressured by Caldwell's allies in Washington, suspended Nathan's credentials. A formal letter broadcast on national news declaring him a traitor, stripping his title, the betrayal cutting deeper than ironwood shivs, his identity as director now a liability, not a weapon. Nathan fled to a safe house, a crumbling apartment 6 miles from downtown, arranged by a sympathetic protester, believing he could regroup, his mind racing to salvage proof of Caldwell's corruption, the bribe receipts Terrell mentioned haunting his thoughts. He scoured Lena's retracted files, finding fragments of precinct data, and believed he'd found a lead, a digital trail to Caldwell's hidden accounts, his fingers trembling as he typed on a borrowed laptop. The safe houses, peeling walls closing in, the humid air thick with dread. But Caldwell's reach was a suffocating fog, his operatives tracking Nathan's digital footprint, and as Nathan hit send on the data to a new contact, a black SUV screeched outside, its doors flying open, 4 armed mercenaries storming the safe house, their boots splintering the door, guns drawn, their slurs echoing the prison guards. Nathan dove behind a couch, his training guiding him through a hail of bullets, glass shattering as he crawled to a fire escape, his lungs burning. But the mercenaries torched the apartment, flames licking the walls, destroying the laptop and data. The explosion of a gas canister knocking Nathan to the alley below, his shoulder screaming with pain as he stumbled away, the safe house a pyre, his evidence ash. The terrorist label, Lena's betrayal, and the ambush were a triple strike, each steeped in racial venom, Caldwell twisting Nathan's fight into a narrative of chaos, the system's bias a vice crushing his every move. On the run, Nathan hid in a storm drain, the city's pulse a distant roar, Maya's face his only anchor, her safety a prayer against Caldwell's wrath. The FBI's disavowal and the lost evidence left Nathan a ghost, his fight for justice, a fugitive's gamble, each step a dance with death, Caldwell's mercenaries closing in, their hunt relentless. The city was a trap, its streets alive with wanted posters, and Nathan knew Caldwell's next blow would be deadlier, his survival, hinging on a miracle, his hidden identity a fading hope in a world that saw him as prey. Dr. Nathan Brooks limped through Detroit's rain-soaked backstreets, the sting of his shoulder wound from the safe house ambush a constant pulse, his fugitive status a noose tightened by Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's racist crusade, the city's wanted posters branding him a terrorist, his FBI credentials revoked, Maya's safety and Sarah's coma haunting his every step, the weight of systemic injustice a boulder on his chest. The humid 91-degree night clung to his stolen jacket, but Nathan's resolve burned hotter, his hidden FBI director identity a flickering ember he guarded, knowing it could still ignite Caldwell's downfall. Hiding in a derelict warehouse, 4 miles from downtown, Nathan's breath caught as he spotted a figure in the shadows. Carla Monroe, a rogue detective with a weathered face and a reputation for defying corrupt brass, her eyes sharp with guilt over past complicity in Caldwell's schemes. Carla revealed she'd been tracking Caldwell's bribery network, possessing a USB drive with bank records tying him to dirty cops, a bombshell that made Nathan's heart race, believing this alliance could expose Caldwell's empire, her grit a lifeline in the storm. They devised a plan to infiltrate Caldwell's precinct, a fortress of glass and steel 3 miles away, to steal physical ledgers confirming the digital evidence, Nathan's training guiding their strategy, his hope surging as they slipped past. Security cameras under a moonless sky, the precinct's humming silence broken only by their hushed steps, believing they'd secured victory as they cracked a safe, the ledger's pages heavy with Caldwell's sins. But Caldwell's paranoia was a tripwire, his mole in the precinct, a desk sergeant named Vince Russo triggering a silent alarm, sealing the building in a lockdown, steel shutters slamming down, trapping Nathan and Carla in a maze of flickering corridors, their escape cut off. Nathan's pulse hammering as red lights flashed, his triumph crumbling. They sprinted toward an exit, Carla's gun drawn, but Russo's squad ambushed them, bullets ricocheting off concrete, and Carla took a shot to the chest, her body crumpling, blood pooling as Nathan dragged her behind a desk, her labored breaths, a countdown, her final words urging him to keep fighting. Her death in his arms a searing loss that shattered Nathan's spirit, the ledgers slipping from his grasp as he fled, scaling a vent to the roof, his lungs burning, the city's skyline. Her mocking witness. Caldwell spun the break-in as Nathan's terrorist attack, broadcasting grainy footage of Nathan fleeing, the media swallowing the lie, painting him as a cop killer, a black man whose defiance threatened order, the racist narrative fueling a citywide manhunt, protests reigniting but turning violent, their purpose twisted to vilify Nathan, his alliance with Carla a pyre of false hope. Nathan stumbled into an abandoned garage, 6 miles from the precinct, his hands trembling as he checked the USB drive, only to find it corrupted, Carla's sacrifice in vain, Caldwell's operatives having sabotaged the files remotely, the betrayal. A blade twisting in Nathan's gut, his evidence reduced to digital ash. The manhunt intensified, helicopters buzzing overhead, their spotlights slicing the night, and Nathan's face was plastered on every screen, the terrorist label a death sentence, Caldwell's allies in the DA's office pushing for a no-surrender policy, shoot-on-sight orders whispered in precinct briefings, the racial bias clear in their zeal to hunt a black fugitive. Nathan's thoughts spun to Maya, her courage a fragile anchor, and he pictured Sarah, still comatose, her fight for him silenced, the loss of Carla a fresh wound, her blood staining his hands in memory, each death a testament to Caldwell's ruthlessness. The precinct break-in, Carla's death, and the sabotaged files were a triple blow, each laced with racial venom, Caldwell exploiting systemic prejudice to paint Nathan as a monster, the city a cage closing in. Nathan hid beneath a tarp, the garage's oil-soaked floor cold against his skin, his FBI training keeping him alert. But despair gnawed, the trial now days away, a rigged circus where justice was a ghost. Caldwell's mercenaries were closing in, their footsteps a distant echo, and Nathan knew his next move was a gamble, his hidden identity a fading trump card, his fight for truth a battle against a system that thrived on his destruction. The city pulsed with danger, each shadow a threat, and Nathan's survival hung on a thread, his heart whispering Maya's name, his vow to protect her, the only light in the dark. Have you ever lost someone who believed in your fight, their sacrifice, fueling your resolve, or felt the weight of a system rigged to silence you, pushing you to the edge? Comment number 1. If you stand with Nathan against this corrupt machine, hit like and subscribe to follow his battle for justice. What daring move will Nathan risk to turn the tide against Caldwell's lies? Dr. Nathan Brooks huddled in a Detroit storm drain, the dank air chilling his bones, his shoulder wound festering under a makeshift bandage, the ghost of Carla's bloodied body and the precinct's sabotaged files fueling his rage against Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's racist vendetta, the city's manhunt tightening like a vice, his fugitive status a scarlet letter branding him a terrorist for his blackness. The trial loomed 1 week away, a rigged spectacle, but Nathan's FBI director training kept his mind razor-sharp, his hidden identity a dormant volcano, its eruption his last hope to dismantle Caldwell's empire. Starving and sleep-deprived, Nathan slipped into a condemned library 5 miles from downtown, its sagging shelves a refuge, where he tapped into a forgotten Wi-Fi signal, his fingers trembling as he contacted a hacker contact, Zara Kim, a reclusive genius who'd once exposed corporate fraud, her encrypted chat a lifeline in the dark. Zara agreed to help Nathan hack a local news station, WXYZ, to broadcast his truth, revealing his FBI director identity and Caldwell's corruption, a daring move that made Nathan's chest tighten with hope, believing this public exposure could sway the city, the weight of Carla's sacrifice urging him forward. Using Zara's code, Nathan infiltrated WXYZ's broadcast system, his face appearing on screens across Detroit during the 6 o'clock news, the studio's anchor stunned as Nathan spoke, his voice steady, declaring his role as FBI director, exposing Caldwell's history of framing black men, the viral arrest, Maya's setup and the precinct's bribe ledgers, his words sparking a firestorm, protests erupting outside the station, their chants shaking the 90-degree dusk. Nathan, convinced he'd shattered Caldwell's lies, the public's roar a shield against the manhunt. But Caldwell's cunning was a guillotine, slicing through Nathan's triumph, and he unleashed a deepfake video aired minutes after Nathan's broadcast, showing Nathan confessing to drug trafficking, the footage so seamless it fooled even Zara, the anchor pivoting to denounce Nathan, the protests fracturing as confusion spread, Caldwell's media allies amplifying the fake, branding Nathan a liar, a black man whose eloquence masked a criminal heart, the racist narrative reigniting public scorn. Nathan's hope crumbled, his broadcast a boomerang, and Caldwell escalated his assault, his operatives storming Maya's dorm, 7 miles away, kidnapping her in a black van, her muffled screams haunting Nathan's nightmares. A ransom note, sent to his burner phone demanding he surrender by dawn, or Maya would die, the threat a sledgehammer to his soul. Nathan refused to yield, believing he could save her, his mind racing to track the van's GPS signal with Zara's help. There, Digital hunt a desperate race against time, the library's flickering lights mocking his dwindling options. But Caldwell's operatives were shadows, anticipating Nathan's defiance, and they leaked Maya's kidnapping to the press, spinning a story that Nathan had abandoned his daughter to fuel his terrorist agenda, the headlines vicious, accusing him of orchestrating the abduction to gain sympathy, the betrayal twisting Nathan's gut, his love for Maya weaponized against him. The FBI, already having suspended Nathan, issued a public statement disavowing him entirely, declaring his director title a fraud, a move orchestrated by Caldwell's Washington allies, the announcement broadcast nationwide, stripping Nathan of his last shred of legitimacy, his identity now a curse, the public's outrage turning to hatred, protests morphing into riots, their fury misdirected at Nathan, the city a tinderbox of chaos. Nathan fled the library, his lungs burning as sirens wailed, Zara's connection severed when her safe house was raided, her equipment smashed by Caldwell's mercenaries, leaving Nathan alone, his burner phone's battery dying, the GPS lead a dead end, Maya's fate a void in his chest. The deepfake, Maya's kidnapping, and the FBI's disavowal were a triple blow, each steeped in racial malice, Caldwell exploiting stereotypes to paint Nathan as a traitor, the system's bias a steel trap snapping shut. Nathan hid in a rusted shipping container 3 miles from the riverfront, the city's pulse a distant roar, his body aching, his mind replaying Carla's dying words, urging him to fight, but despair clawed at him, the trial a looming execution, Maya's life hanging by a thread. Caldwell's mercenaries prowled, their radios crackling with shoot-on-sight orders, and Nathan's survival was a miracle, his hidden identity useless, the public now his enemy, the racist narrative a noose around his neck. He clutched a photo of Maya, torn from his wallet, her smile a fading light, and vowed to save her. Though Caldwell's next trap was already closing, the city a labyrinth of danger, each shadow a threat, Nathan's fight for justice a fugitive's prayer, his every move a gamble against a system that thrived on his destruction. Dr. Nathan Brooks crouched in a rusted shipping container 3 miles from Detroit's riverfront, the humid 92-degree night pressing against his feverish skin, his shoulder wound seeping, the agony of Maya's kidnapping and Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's deepfake betrayal a fire in his veins, the city's manhunt a relentless drumbeat, his disavowed FBI director identity a shattered shield against a system weaponizing his blackness. The trial was days away, a rigged execution, but Nathan's resolve was a steel thread woven from Maya's smile, Carla's sacrifice, and Sarah's coma, each loss a testament to Caldwell's racist empire. Starving and hunted, Nathan traced a faint GPS signal from Maya's phone, a breadcrumb left by Caldwell's operatives, leading to a derelict factory 6 miles away, his heart pounding with the hope of saving her, his fugitive status a death sentence if caught. He contacted a hacker collective, ShadowNet, a secretive group who'd evaded Caldwell's reach, their leader, Kai, a wiry tech savant with a grudge against corrupt cops, agreeing to help Nathan stage a rescue, their encrypted comms a lifeline. Nathan, believing he'd regained control, his mind mapping the factory's layout, its crumbling smokestacks a grim fortress. Under a starless sky, Nathan and ShadowNet infiltrated the factory, their boots silent on broken concrete, Kai's drones disabling alarms, Maya's muffled cries guiding them through rusted halls, and Nathan found her, bound and bruised but alive, her eyes flashing with defiance, his heart soaring as he cut her free, believing he'd outwitted Caldwell, the rescue a fleeting victory, their escape a sprint through a maze of machinery, drones buzzing overhead. But Caldwell's operatives were phantoms, their trap sprung as Nathan and Maya reached the exit, floodlights blazing, mercenaries surrounding them, their guns trained, Kai's team scattering, the collective's tech jammed by Caldwell's hackers, the rescue unraveling, though Nathan shielded Maya, shoving her behind a crate, his body a barrier, believing he could still save her, his love a desperate shield. ShadowNet regrouped, their drones distracting the mercenaries, and Nathan escaped with Maya, collapsing in a safe house 4 miles away, a crumbling tenement, believing they'd won, his arms around Maya, her trembling breath a miracle, their reunion a spark in the dark. Nathan debriefed Kai, uncovering Caldwell's plan to rig a mayoral election, funneling bribe money to a candidate who'd shield his network, a scheme laid bare in ShadowNet's intercepted emails, and Nathan saw a chance to expose it, leaking. The emails to Senator Alicia Grant, a reformist with a history of challenging police corruption, her office 2 miles from the safe house, her promise to investigate making Nathan believe he'd secured a powerful ally, his hope flickering like a candle in a storm. But Caldwell's malice was a tidal wave, crashing over Nathan's triumph, and his operatives assassinated Senator Grant in her office, a silenced sniper shot through her window, her body found hours later, the murder pinned on Nathan, a forged manifesto in his name splashed across headlines, accusing him of killing to destabilize the city, the racist narrative painting him as a black terrorist mastermind, the public's outrage a noose tightening, protests turning against him, their signs now demanding his capture. Caldwell's hackers exposed ShadowNet's network, their safe houses raided, Kai and his team arrested, their equipment seized, the collective's collapse a gut punch, Nathan's allies erased, his leak to Grant a fatal misstep, the safe house no longer secure, Maya's safety a fleeting illusion. Caldwell escalated, filing treason charges against Nathan, the accusation a death knell broadcast nationwide, the media claiming he'd orchestrated a conspiracy against the government, his blackness a scapegoat for systemic fears, the FBI's disavowal now a footnote, the public convinced he was a traitor. Detroit a cauldron of hate. Nathan and Maya fled, their footsteps echoing in a sewer tunnel. The city's pulse a distant roar, his wound throbbing, her courage a fragile anchor. But despair clawed at Nathan, the trial a guillotine, Caldwell's mercenaries closing in, their radios crackling with kill orders. The rescue, Grant's assassination, and ShadowNet's collapse were a triple blow, each steeped in racial venom, Caldwell twisting Nathan's fight into a narrative of terror, the system's bias a steel cage. Nathan clutched Maya's hand, her warmth a fading light, and vowed to protect her, his hidden identity useless, the city a labyrinth of betrayal, each corner a threat, Caldwell's next move a spectre, his fight for justice, a fugitive's cry against a machine that thrived on his destruction. Have you ever risked everything to save someone you love, only to face a world that brands you the villain, or felt the sting of losing allies to a system that chews up the truth? Comment number 1. If you believe Nathan's fight exposes the rot in this corrupt system, hit like and subscribe to follow his desperate battle. What reckless gamble will Nathan take to save Maya and strike back at Caldwell? Dr. Nathan Brooks gripped Maya's hand in a Detroit sewer tunnel, the damp chill seeping into his bones. His shoulder wound a throbbing reminder of Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's racist onslaught, the assassination of Senator Grant, shadow nets, collapse, and the treason charges branding him a black terrorist. The city's manhunt a relentless predator, his disavowed FBI director identity a broken sword in a fight for survival. The trial was tomorrow, a rigged guillotine, but Nathan's love for Maya, her trembling courage and the memory of Carla's sacrifice steeled his resolve, his vow to protect his daughter aflame against the system's darkness. Knowing Caldwell's mercenaries were closing in, Nathan made a desperate choice, surrendering to the police at dawn, believing his FBI status, though tarnished, could sway the jury, his heart pounding as he kissed Maya's forehead, entrusting her to a trusted friend. Elena, a former FBI colleague hiding in a safe house 3 miles away, her loyalty a rare anchor in a sea of betrayal. Nathan walked into the precinct, hands raised, the air thick with 90-degree humidity, officers swarming, their cuffs biting his wrists, their slurs echoing Caldwell's hatred. But Nathan's calm demeanor rattled them, his hidden identity, a silent weapon. The courthouse 4 miles away, his next battlefield. Assigned a new lawyer, Rachel Patel, a fierce advocate who'd battled corrupt DAs. Nathan felt a flicker of hope, her sharp mind dissecting Caldwell's lies, uncovering fragments of ShadowNet's election-rigging evidence pieced together from Kai's salvaged drives, a bombshell that could expose Caldwell's mayoral scheme. Nathan believing the courtroom was his chance to fight back, his pulse quickening as Rachel prepped him in a holding cell, the trial's opening gavel a distant thunder. In the courtroom, a cavern of polished wood and cold justice, Rachel presented the election-rigging evidence, her voice cutting through the prosecutor's objections, the jury's eyes widening as she linked Caldwell's bribes to a candidate, the testimony swaying doubters, Nathan's chest swelling with the belief he'd cleared his name, the public gallery buzzing, a juror nodding in agreement, a rare ally in a sea of bias. But Caldwell's corruption was a hydra, its heads regrowing, and he bribed the jury foreman, Harold Klein, a retired cop with a grudge against reformists, planting forged emails in the jury room, claiming Nathan had hacked the DA's office. The evidence tainting Rachel's case, Harold's whispers turning jurors against Nathan, their stares hardening, his triumph slipping like sand through his fingers. Rachel fought back, cross-examining a precinct witness, exposing inconsistencies in Caldwell's deepfake, and a juror, a young teacher named Aisha, questioned the forged email's authenticity, her doubt a spark that made Nathan believe he'd regained ground. The courtroom's tension electric, the judge's gavel a heartbeat. But Caldwell's operatives were relentless, staging a bomb threat mid-trial, a chilling call claiming Nathan's supporters had planted explosives, the courthouse evacuated, chaos erupting as deputies rushed Nathan to a holding cell, the media pouncing, accusing him of orchestrating the threat, the racist narrative painting him as a black mastermind, the public's fleeting sympathy crushed, protests outside turning hostile, their signs demanding his conviction. Caldwell's sabotage didn't stop, his operatives tampering with Rachel's car as she left the courthouse, a brake line cut, sending her vehicle crashing into a ditch 5 miles away, her body bloodied but alive, hospitalized in critical condition. The news reaching Nathan through a guard's taunting whisper, his heart splintering. Another ally silenced, his hope a fading ember. Caldwell escalated, leaking fabricated ties between Nathan and a national crime syndicate, the story flooding airwaves, accusing him of funneling drug money to terrorists, the charges piling onto treason, the prosecutor gloating, the jury's bias cemented, the trial postponed indefinitely. Nathan's fate sealed in a system that saw his blackness as guilt, transferred to a maximum security prison, Blackwater, 8 miles outside Detroit. Nathan faced a new hell, its guards Caldwell's puppets, their batons ready, their slurs a daily ritual, the prison's concrete walls a tomb, his cell a 5-by-7-foot cage, the flickering light mocking his despair. The jury tampering, bomb threat, and Rachel's crash were a triple blow, each laced with racial venom. Caldwell exploiting stereotypes to bury Nathan, the system's bias a steel trap snapping shut. Nathan lay on his cot, Maya's photo clutched. In his hand, her safety a prayer, Carla's dying words echoing, urging him to fight. But the prison's brutality loomed. Caldwell's mercenaries whispering through informants, their kill orders a shadow, the trial's delay, a death sentence. Nathan's FBI training kept him vigilant, but exhaustion clawed at him, his wound infected, his body weakening, the city a distant memory, its streets alive with lies, Caldwell's empire untouched, his next move a spectre, Nathan's fight, for justice a fugitive's vow, his survival a miracle against a machine that thrived on his destruction. Dr. Nathan Brooks lay on a thin cot in Blackwater Prison, 8 miles from Detroit's heart, the 5-by-7-foot cell a suffocating tomb, his infected shoulder wound burning, the weight of Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's racist vendetta crushing. His spirit, Maya's safety a fragile hope, Rachel's crash and the syndicate charges a fresh wound, the system's bias a steel blade slicing his future, his disavowed FBI director identity a ghost of power in a world that saw him as a black terrorist. The trial's indefinite delay was a death sentence, Caldwell's rigged jury waiting. But Nathan's resolve flickered, fueled by Carla's dying words and Sarah's fight, his mind plotting survival in a prison where guards spat slurs, their batons gleaming with menace. Each day a gauntlet of racial hatred. In the yard, under a 94-degree sun, Nathan overheard inmates whispering about Caldwell's influence, guards taking bribes to target prisoners, a mirror of his own framing, and he saw a chance to fight back, rallying a group of inmates, led by Malik Jones, a lifer with a quiet strength, wronged by Caldwell's precinct years ago, their shared injustice a spark, Nathan believing a prison protest could expose the corruption, his voice low but fierce as he planned, hope stirring, like a breeze in the desert. The protest erupted in the mess hall, 50 inmates chanting for justice, Nathan at the forefront demanding an investigation into Caldwell's bribes, their voices shaking the concrete walls, a smuggled phone streaming the uprising to a local activist's blog, the footage spreading online catching the media's eye. Detroit's news van swarming Blackwater's gates, Nathan's heart racing, believing the exposure would force a retrial, the public's attention a lifeline, the chant a war cry against a system that chained them. But Caldwell's malice was a storm, twisting triumph into chaos, and he orchestrated a riot, bribing guards to unlock rival gang cells, arming them with shanks, the mess hall exploding into violence, tables overturned, blood pooling, Nathan dodging a blade as Malik shielded him. The protest's message drowned in screams, Caldwell's media allies spinning the uprising as Nathan's terrorist plot, the racist narrative painting him as a black warlord, the footage edited to show him inciting the carnage, the public's fleeting sympathy crushed, protests outside the prison turning against him, their signs demanding his execution. Nathan fought to restore order, his FBI training guiding his moves, but a guard's baton cracked his ribs, pain flaring, and he was dragged to a holding cell, believing he could escape the chaos, his mind racing to contact Elena, Maya's guardian, to ensure her safety, a desperate plan to slip a note through a sympathetic inmate, his hope a fragile thread, believing he'd outmaneuvered Caldwell's trap. But Caldwell's operatives were relentless, detonating explosives in the prison's armory. A deafening blast shaking Blackwater, flames engulfing the East Wing, 10 inmates killed, their screams haunting Nathan's ears, the media blaming him, claiming he'd rigged the bombs to cover his escape, the racist lie fueling a citywide emergency. Detroit's mayor declaring martial law, checkpoints rising, the public convinced Nathan was a terrorist leader, the prison a war zone, its survivors baying for his blood. Caldwell's allies in the FBI issued a final condemnation, erasing Nathan's name from their records, his director title a myth, the disavowal broadcast on every channel, the system severing its last tie, leaving Nathan a pariah, the manhunt. Now a national crusade, shoot-on-sight orders whispered in briefing rooms, the racial bias of venom coursing through the city. Nathan seized a moment in the chaos, the explosion's smoke cloaking his escape, crawling through a shattered vent, his ribs screaming, emerging in a drainage ditch 1 mile from Blackwater, his body battered, believing he'd won freedom to fight, his lungs gasping in the humid air, the city's skyline a distant taunt. But the riot, the explosion, and the FBI's erasure were a triple blow, each laced with racial hatred, Caldwell twisting Nathan's protest into a narrative of terror, the system's prejudice a guillotine blade, the media's lies a noose. Detroit a cauldron of chaos, its streets alive with bounty hunters, their radios crackling with Caldwell's orders. Nathan stumbled through a thicket, the prison's sirens fading, Maya's photo clutched in his trembling hand, her safety a prayer, Elena's loyalty a fading hope, the trial a distant spectre, Caldwell's mercenaries closing in, their drones. Buzzing overhead, the city a labyrinth of danger, each shadow a threat. Nathan's wound festered, his strength ebbing, but his vow to protect Maya and expose Caldwell burned, his FBI training a lifeline, his fight for justice a fugitive's defiance, the system's weight a mountain, Caldwell's next move a phantom, Nathan's survival a miracle against a machine that thrived on his destruction. Dr. Nathan Brooks staggered through a dense thicket 1 mile from Blackwater Prison, the humid 95-degree night cloaking his battered frame, his infected shoulder wound a searing pulse, the echoes of the prison explosion, and Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's racist manhunt a relentless tide, Maya's safety a flickering star, the FBI's erasure and the city's martial law a steel cage around his heart, his fight for justice, a fugitive's desperate cry against a system that branded his blackness a crime. The trial's shadow loomed, a rigged noose. But Nathan's FBI director training sharpened his instincts, his hidden identity a final weapon, its power a ember in the ashes of Carla's death, Sarah's coma and Rachel's crash, each loss a scar fueling his vow to end Caldwell's empire. Nathan rallied his last allies, a ragtag group of activists led by Elena, Maya's guardian, who'd evaded Caldwell's mercenaries, their safe house 2 miles from Detroit's precinct, a crumbling sanctuary, their faces etched with defiance. Their trust in Nathan a lifeline, his plan to infiltrate Caldwell's precinct and hack his private server a reckless gambit, believing a live broadcast of Caldwell's confession could shatter his lies, his heart pounding with the hope of vindication. Under a moonless sky, Nathan and Elena's team slipped into the precinct, a fortress of steel and surveillance 3 miles from downtown, their steps silent, Nathan's training guiding them past laser grids, his fingers trembling as he plugged. Her drive into Caldwell's server, Zara's salvaged code from Part 8 unlocking files, a confession video surfacing, Caldwell admitting to framing black men, rigging elections and bribing guards, the footage a bombshell. Nathan's breath catching as he broadcast it, live on every Detroit news feed. The city's screens flashing his truth, protests erupting, thousands chanting for justice, Nathan believing he'd defeated Caldwell, his chest swelling, the public's roar a tide turning against the system's bias. But Caldwell's cunning was a serpent, striking from the shadows, and he triggered a citywide blackout, plunging Detroit into darkness, the broadcast cut, servers fried, the confession erased, Nathan's triumph a fleeting spark, the precinct's lights flickering, alarms blaring, his allies scrambling. Elena's face pale as she urged retreat, but Nathan refused, his rage a furnace, determined to face Caldwell, believing he could end it now, his FBI director identity a blade to wield. Nathan stormed Caldwell's office, the precinct a labyrinth of chaos, finding Caldwell alone, his smug grin faltering as Nathan revealed his true title, FBI director, the words a thunderclap, Caldwell's eyes widening, his arrogance crumbling. The revelation a seismic shift, Nathan's voice steady as he accused him of every crime, the election rigging, Maya's kidnapping, the murders, Caldwell's hands shaking, his denial weak, Nathan believing he'd won, the confrontation a checkmate against a racist tyrant. But Caldwell's operatives were relentless, a squad of mercenaries bursting in, their rifles raised, slurs spitting, their loyalty to Caldwell a twisted creed, and Nathan fought, his training a blur of strikes, disarming one, but at tasers. Jolt dropped him, pain searing, his vision blurring. Elena's team counterattacking, gunfire echoing, the precinct a war zone. Nathan's allies dragging him free, overpowering the mercenaries, cuffing Caldwell, his empire crumbling, the blackout lifting, a backup feed restoring the confession, airing to millions. Detroit's streets alive with demands for justice. Nathan's heart racing, believing he'd finally broken Caldwell, the racist system cracking, his fight vindicated. But Caldwell, even in cuffs, sneered, vowing revenge, whispering of a larger conspiracy. Shadowy figures above him, his words a chilling hint. Nathan's victory bittersweet, the confession a spark, but the system's roots deep, the racial bias. A hydra, its heads regrowing, the mercenaries' defeat a fleeting win. Caldwell's allies still lurking, their power a spectre, the city a tinderbox, protests teetering on violence. Nathan's body battered, his wound bleeding. Maya safe, but shaken. Elena's eyes haunted. The cost of their fight a heavy toll. The broadcast, Caldwell's shock, and the mercenary assault were a triple climax, each laced with racial venom. Caldwell's empire built on prejudice, his framing of Nathan a microcosm of systemic injustice, the confrontation exposing the rot, but the conspiracy hint a new shadow. Nathan's fight a battle in a larger war, the system's weight a mountain, his allies dwindling, the trial's outcome uncertain, Caldwell's arrest a step, not a finish line. Nathan stood outside the precinct, the dawn breaking. The city's skyline a jagged promise, his FBI identity revealed, his name a rallying cry. But Caldwell's words echoed, a warning of deeper corruption, the system's bias a living beast. Nathan's vow to protect Maya and dismantle the machine a fire in his chest, his survival a miracle. The mercenaries' cuffs clinking, Caldwell's glare a promise of retaliation, the city a crucible, each corner a threat. Nathan's fight. For justice a warrior's stand. His next move a gamble against a system that thrived on his destruction. Dr. Nathan Brooks stood in the pale dawn outside Detroit's precinct, the air heavy with 90-degree heat, his body a map of scars from Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's racist crusade, the infected shoulder wound a dull throb, Maya's trembling hand in his, Elena's weary nod a silent vow. The city's skyline a jagged scar after the blackout, Caldwell's arrest, and the broadcast that exposed his empire, a fleeting victory against a system that weaponized Nathan's blackness. His FBI director identity now a public sword, its edge blunted by a trial that never came, the rigged charges of treason and terrorism dissolved, but the cost a pyre of losses. Carla's blood, Sarah's coma, Rachel's crash, and a city fractured by hate. Caldwell's confession, aired to millions, sparked a reckoning. His conviction swift, a life sentence in a federal prison 7 miles away, the judge's gavel a hollow echo. Nathan's reinstatement as FBI director a bitter triumph, the Bureau's apology a formality. Their earlier disavowal a wound that festered, the media's racist narratives, terrorist labels, and syndicate lies a lingering poison. Detroit's protests now a mix of hope and rage, their chants demanding reform. Nathan's name a rallying cry, but his heart heavy. Maya's haunted eyes a mirror of trauma, her college dreams tainted by her kidnapping, the safe house a memory of fear. Nathan launched a task force, headquartered 3 miles from the courthouse to combat systemic racism, hiring Elena as his deputy, her resolve a steel spine, their mission to dismantle the networks Caldwell served, a promise to honor Carla's sacrifice, Sarah's fight, and the inmates lost in Blackwater's explosion. Each death a debt Nathan carried, his office a Spartan war room, maps and files charting corruption, his speeches at rallies igniting thousands, his voice raw but unwavering, urging Detroit to rise. The task force's first raids uncovering dirty cops, their bribes tied to Caldwell's old ledgers. A step toward justice, Nathan believing he'd turned the tide, his chest swelling with purpose, the city's pulse of fragile hope. Maya's smile a faint return, her courage a beacon. Elena's reports showing progress, the system's cracks widening, reform a distant star. But Caldwell's final whisper in the precinct, a vow of revenge gnawed at Nathan. His hint of a larger conspiracy, a shadow that grew, the system's bias a hydra, its heads lurking beyond the precinct's walls. Nathan's task force a spark, not a blaze, the city's reform teetering, protests met with tear gas, the media's narrative shifting, some praising Nathan, others reviving racist tropes, his blackness still a target, his reinstatement questioned, whispers of tokenism cutting deep, his allies stretched thin, Elena's warnings of backlash a constant hum, the weight of leadership a boulder, Maya's nightmares a nightly reminder of their cost. 1 week after Caldwell's conviction, Nathan received an anonymous package at his office. A flash drive slipped under the door, his fingers trembling as he plugged it in, a grainy video loading, Caldwell's face appearing, recorded in his cell, his smirk chilling, his voice low, confessing he was a pawn, a cog in a nationwide network of corrupt officials, judges and senators targeting black leaders, framing them, breaking them, a shadow cabal with roots in Washington, their names coded in files he'd never seen, his words cut off by a cough, his eyes darting, a shadow moving behind him, the video ending abruptly. Nathan's blood freezing. The implications a tidal wave. The systems rot deeper than he'd imagined. Racial injustice a machine with endless gears. Caldwell's role, a fragment of a larger beast. Hours later, news broke. Caldwell found dead in his cell, a noose around his neck, ruled a suicide. But Nathan's gut screamed murder, the timing too perfect, the video a warning, the cabal silencing its pawn, their power a spectre, Nathan's. Task force now a target. His raids a pinprick against a leviathan, Maya's safety a prayer. Elena's face grim as she analyzed the drive, finding encrypted fragments. Names like ghosts. The conspiracy a labyrinth. Detroit's reform a fragile dream. The city's streets tense, protests clashing with riot police. The media's racist undertones resurfacing. Nathan's fight a war, not a battle. His reinstatement. A hollow crown. The system's bias a living pulse. Each step a gamble, his allies dwindling. The cabal's reach a shadow, their next move a phantom. Nathan's vow to dismantle them a fire, his heart pounding with dread and defiance. The video's truth a burden, his survival a miracle, the city a crucible, each dawn a challenge. The cabal's revelation was a shattering climax, a twist that flipped Nathan's victory into a new war, racial injustice a hydra with unseen heads, Caldwell's death a cover, the system's prejudice a fortress, Nathan's task force a spark. In the dark, Maya's hand in his, a lifeline, Elena's resolve a mirror, the fight for justice a marathon, not a sprint, the conspiracy a spectre, Nathan's FBI director title a double-edged blade, his speeches a call to arms, Detroit's skyline a promise and a threat, his wound a reminder of the cost, his fight. A warrior's stand, the system's weight a mountain, Nathan's heart whispering Maya's name, his vow to protect her and expose the cabal aflame against a system that thrived on his destruction. Nathan Brooks's battle in A Cop's Reckoning unveils the brutal reality of systemic racism, showing how institutions weaponize prejudice to silence black voices. His fight against Lieutenant Derek Caldwell's racist framing, despite personal losses, teaches resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Nathan's hidden FBI director identity, revealed to shatter Caldwell's empire, underscores the power of truth, even when buried under lies. The story exposes how racist systems thrive on betrayal, from media smears to rigged juries. Yet Nathan's task force launch proves one person's defiance can spark change. Maya's courage and Carla's sacrifice highlight the human cost of fighting injustice, reminding us that victories are bittersweet when scars remain. The shocking revelation of a nationwide cabal targeting black leaders warns that racism is a hydra, its heads regrowing unless challenged relentlessly. Nathan's story urges us to question authority, amplify marginalized voices, and persist, no matter the cost. It's a call to recognize our own power to confront racist systems, whether through activism or awareness. The fight for justice is a marathon, not a sprint, and every step counts. What racist injustice have you witnessed, and how will you stand against it? Comment below, hit like, subscribe, and share to spread Nathan's fight. Thank you for joining this journey. May you find strength to challenge injustice daily,